Hello, Bobble. Been fancy bumping into you here. Merry Christmas and all that guff. How have you been?
Not bad, Jeff. Not bad.
Just doing some last-minute cribble shopping, what? Me too, old sport. I have one of those new computer game thingies for the children. God knows what they see in them. I can't even plug the damn thing in. When I tried 3 months ago, when I got them the latest upgrade, I electrocuted the dog. And old Aunt Molly will never walk straight again, poor love. And so since then, I've been deemed merely the wallet on these occasions, and I'm to stay well away from the actual setup and execution with the blasted machine. What have you got in your basket there, Bob, huh?
Just some ceremonial robes for the coming of the great goat-hoofed overlord.
Oh, I know what you mean. I've got the in-laws visiting this Christmas, too. And is that a cross I spy? Just beautiful. After all, it is little baby G's birthday, and I feel sometimes in this world of hubbub and hullabaloo that we forget the little baby G sometimes.
It is a crucifix, but we hang it upside down.
Really? Well, fascinating. And what about dinner, old horse? What's for din-dins, eh?
We celebrate the feast of Beelzebub with the blood of young virgins and a ritual sacrificing of the devil badger.
Well, that must be what all those goblets are for and that steak knife set. You get them on sale? What aisle? I could use a goblet for the wine I'll need to get through dinner with the wife's family, if you know what I mean. They have debilitating flatulence and never stop talking about wounds they've suffered.
No cost is too high to prepare for the coming of the great Dark One.
Well, you're right there, old thing-of-a-lad. Price is no option where Christmas is concerned. Every year it just fills my heart with love and pride for about the 30 seconds my children sit still and enjoy a gift before they tear through the place, destroying it with the latest crossbow or whatever else they've demanded from me as a gift at knife point. It really is what I work all year round for.
If my spawn are unruly, then we strap them up in the dungeon and play them Hammond organ music.
I can hardly get my kids to sit still throughout the opening credits of the Queen's speech. Well, anyway, Bob, it's been lovely chin-wagging with you like this, and you must visit in the new year. I know Celia would absolutely love to have you round.
We will bring you a ram's head full of the innards of my unbelieving enemies.
Oh, there's no need to go to such trouble. Just a bottle of Pinot would be fine. Anyway, must get on. These 40 expensive items aren't going to purchase themselves.
Jeff, just promise me one thing.
Oh, anything, old donkey. What?
Jeff, just promise me you'll never take up golf.
Are you kidding, Bob? Those people are the worst. They can go straight to hell.
Ha, 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 ha.
So he said, do you want to see my jingle bells? And I said, put your trousers back on, you damn fool. Hello and welcome to another episode of the After Movie Diner. And essentially, this is our Christmas episode of the After Movie Diner. So, Merry Christmas to one and to all. Or Happy Hanukkah. To one and to all. Unless you're celebrating Christmas. In which case, Merry Christmas. And already, you see, just the simple act of wishing people a happy time of year has become a quagmire of possible problems. And we say, fuck and that. Anyway, let's move on, because enough of all this drivel. It's Christmas time, and so this is our Christmas episode, even though the two films we're talking about this episode are not Christmassy at all. I have tried to put some Christmas up front, and there is some Christmas at the end, just to kind of sandwich this conversation about Marvel movies with some level of Christmasness. Not quite sure why, but anyway. on we go. And I'm very happy to hear that we have some comments and an email and some other stuff about this episode. So let's get right to the chase, shall we? And go immediately over to the mailbag jingle. Here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. Is there something in his big brown sack? I wonder what could it be? Well, I hope the bills it lacks and instead brings me some listener feedback, or maybe, just maybe, a big bag of crack. Oh, here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. So, with a dainty hop, skip and a jump over to our Facebook page, that's www.facebook.com/aftermoviediner. Go like us today if you haven't already. Raymond Fernandez says, I either like or love all the MCU stuff so far. That's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and Guardians were the ones that I had the least amount of expectations for, but they've ended up surprising me the most with how much I loved them. As someone who grew up collecting and reading Marvel comics in the late 80s and into my adulthood, these movies are my dream come true. I just hope WB/DC get their act together with their versions. And then Christopher Powell from the Three Black Geeks said, I'm liking where comic book movies are headed, at least when it comes to the MCU films. Disney, Marvel really have a good thing going on, and you can tell they have people behind these films that really care about delivering on what makes the characters and stories great from the comics. As far as 2016 goes, Deadpool was the surprise movie for me, just because I didn't expect Fox to nail the character so damn good, but that's mainly because they let Ryan Reynolds and co. do whatever they wanted, since they cared about the character so much. Civil War was my top movie of 2016, though. I enjoyed Doctor Strange mainly because they finally introduced magic into the MCU, and I love it and want more. Ant-Man was another favourite of mine. Everything about that film worked, despite the story being just okay. I'm looking forward to Wonder Woman in 2017 and Spider-Man Homecoming. I feel Thor Ragnarok is finally going to give us the Thor movie we deserve. He also says, as far as WB is concerned, I just want them to get people that care about the material, and Wonder Woman gives me hope that WB can finally deliver a good, solid movie. And you can find Christopher Powell and his friends over at 3blackgeeks.com. That's the number 3 and then blackgeeks.com website, where they have a podcast, they have comic book stuff, wrestling stuff, all sorts of great stuff over on that website. So please check out 3blackgeeks.com. Next, we jump over to our Facebook group, which is a crazy URL, so I'm not going to read it out. But essentially, just look up After Movie Diner and Dr. Action Facebook group, and you will find us there. So, talking about comic book movies, Dean Garman on the Facebook group said, I'm sick of them, and most recently have turned them off halfway through. Most recently, I liked Guardians and Iron Man 3. Saw Rogue One the other day, and it had a trailer for Guardians 2, and that looked great. We'll watch that, and that's about it. Forgot, we'll probably give the new Spidey a go too. Always been my fave superhero. And then Taya Del Val, who used to do the Grown Geek Girl videos on the After Movie Diner website, says, all I can really say is it is a great time to be a fan. I have loved the surge in the interest of the stories and characters. Even though some of the films have been lacking, I am still glad that they're there. I walked into Doctor Strange knowing nothing of the character. I left the theater and headed right over to Midtown Comics because I wanted to know more about him. That's the greatest thing about these films to me as a comic book fan. Yes, there may be a ton of people going to see these films just to see a film, and yes, there are comic book geeks like myself who may pick apart each movie and point out what they changed from the source material and get irate about certain bits, but the fact is these new fans ensure that the media I love will continue to be made. Do I wish a little more thought would be put into story, characterization and plot? Most definitely, but overall I'm glad these films are being made. And then lastly, on the subject of comic book movies, Doug Fry, formerly of the Schlock Treatment podcast and the Wrestlers in Movies correspondent for the After Movie Diner, although we've actually only done 2 episodes on wrestlers in movies, we will be doing more. He wrote to me via our email address, which is hello@aftermoviediner.com, or you can contact us using the contact form on our website, aftermoviediner.com. And Doug Fry says this: "Hey John, I grew up reading comic books, so this would be a real golden age of these movies for me as a kid. As it stands, I like seeing them as entertainment for the most part now, like any good adventure films. Ant-Man and Doctor Strange were both visually impressive in their effects. Doctor Strange's world-tilting MC Escher world battles were great on the big screen, and I like the setup and villains' motivations for the presumed sequel. One caveat, though, I can't 100% respect the hero who texts and drives, especially as his origin story. Didn't you see the Herzog short Strange? Jackass. Ant-Man also mixed up the visuals, shrinking and growing at will to throw opponents off balance, and made a man who shrinks actually seem incredibly dangerous. I feel like that takes some doing to be convincing. Plus, who doesn't love Paul Rudd? DC films, on the other hand, are not adventure films in that they aren't fun. Warner Brothers has decided that only Batman sells, so every character is the most grindingly dour version of Batman you can summon. Everything is Frank Miller with them, and if you're not familiar with what's wrong with that, look for any number of wingnut quotes from him. Batman vs. Superman, Rise of the Dawn of Justice for the Planet of the Apes was a chore. Giggly Luther was the worst. Summary: Marvel movies are fun, blockbuster stuff. DC are dull, dark, depressing wastes of the characters, outside of Batman, I suppose. I don't know what's coming, though. I stopped paying attention. Okay, I think this missive is after Movie Diner length now. Yours in Zack Snyder slow-mo, Doug. And thank you for everyone who decided to chirp in about comic book movies. That was fantastic. I love feedback. So please, if I put a message up on Facebook, send us comments. Otherwise, you can always, at any time of the day or night, email me over at hello@aftermoviediner.com. Call us and leave a voicemail at 347-669-0053 or over at speakpipe.com/aftermoviediner. Which is an online voicemail service if you want to use that instead. Or just go to the Contact Us section of aftermoviediner.com and fill out the contact form there. So many ways to get in touch, so please, please, please do it. That would be amazing. Okay, so lastly, before we kick into our main conversation about Marvel movies, Doctor Strange and Ant-Man, as it is Christmas and it is the season of giving, why not give? And wait just a minute. I'm not going to ask for you to sponsor or support the After Movie Diner this week. Instead, I'm going to ask you to help out a good friend of our website, Patricia Stevens, who has had medical issues all year and needs lots of help and support to be able to pay, as her insurance has been a nightmare. Let me just explain what I'm talking about. So, Patricia's story is this. She had been having a lot of back pain, ended up having balance issues, and then got a loss of sensation in her legs. When she went to the emergency room, she had lots of tests run and found out that she had a tumor on her spine. The tumor had to be removed surgically. More tests were run and a lump was found in her breast. It turned out that she had stage 4 cancer. This means there will be a course of chemotherapy and radiation treatments, and most insurance companies only cover a portion of those treatments and only pay so much for hospital stays. On top of that, she's also been going through recuperation and mobility therapy so that she can walk again, and she is making leaps and bounds. Her legs are moving again, and she's almost strong enough to stand on her legs again, something the doctor said probably might not happen, and yet it has, and it has because of Patricia's incredible strength and because of all the support she's received. So I would like to ask the listeners of the Diner to help out Patricia Stevens, who at Christmas time deserves it more than most. And you get something for your support. It's not just giving us money for nothing. Me and the two guys from the excellent Bloodbaths and Boomsticks podcast, Tim Gross and Kyle Poling, we recorded a factful and fun commentary for John Carpenter's The Thing, surely everyone's favorite film who listens to this show, and we made it available on the website for as little as $1. So if you go over to aftermoviediner.com and in the little hamburger menu, which is the three little lines in the top left-hand corner, click on that, click on podcasts, and click on The Thing commentary for Patricia, you will be taken to a page where you can donate and then download the podcast from that button. So it's really simple. Just go to the Thing commentary for Patricia on the After Movie Diner website. Click on the button to donate. Donate anything from $1 upwards, and you will receive a download link for the Thing commentary, and you'll be supporting the very best cause that I can think of, certainly homegrown cause that I can think of this year. So please do us a favor and help out a good friend of the show, Patricia Stevens. That would be awesome. And now, born in the molten fires of disappointment and rage that whip around the stalagmites of indifference and thick corduroy wall coverings, raised by the Bolivian plaid moths of the barely patient or tolerating woods of questionable bathroom practices, forged amongst the souls of vanquished sarcastic valet parking attendants and drenched in the cynicism of 1,000 drug-addled game show hosts. His disturbing pelican fetish was the subject of Chapter 4 of Che Guevara's unpublished manifesto about why spittle and toilet paper are no real solution for rebel stationary forces looking to overthrow the vast corporate post-it note empire, simply titled, Not Again, 3M. And in 1972, a relative of his once stood too close to Herb Albert without paying the appropriate toll. He's the knave of the strange occasional Fox-produced Marvel movies, the prince of the various DC cinematic mistakes, a knight of the Disney Marvel Cinematic Universe realm, and king of all that is comics. He's a returning champion to the diner, having spent much of 2016 scouring the plains of despair and fending off the trolls of the bottom-dwelling zone that believed an orange skin sack full of ignorance, fetid hot air, and flecks of moldy shit that once hosted a British TV rip-off reality TV show would make a good president. He's the one, the only David DeMoss.
Yes, John, can you hear me?
I can indeed, Mr. DeMoss. It has been, I think, a year since last we talked.
At least officially. I mean, at least, vocally.
Right. No, of course. No. I mean, there's Facebook and the Twitters, but it's not quite the same.
That much is true. Yes.
In the next bit, David is talking about Slingshot Cops, the Matt Farley and Charlie Roxburgh movie.
Congratulations, by the way. When we start the show, I'm going to congratulate you again. But seriously, good. Yeah, congrats, man.
Oh,
on your feature debut, Mr. Cross.
Well, I've been in other features, but yes, this one is on Blu-ray. It's my Blu-ray debut. How about that? Soon
shall conquer all the formats.
Soon I shall, yeah. Soon I just need to get an 8-track of one of my albums and I'm there. But,
exactly.
The Blu-ray of Slingshot Cops, by the way, is available over at www.moturnmedia.com. That's MOTERN media.com. That's Motern, like modern, but with a T. Let us ease into our conversation about what we're going to be calling. What is it? Is it Phase 2 or Phase 3? It's Phase 3, right?
It's Phase 3 by now, yes. You can tell by the number of Avengers movies.
Ant-Man was the first of the Phase 3 new origin stories. I'm sorry, past John, but this is John from the future who has Google open, and apparently Ant-Man was the last of Phase 2, not the first film of Phase 3. Reasons for that, I presume, can only be explained by Kevin Feige's large domed forehead. So we're going to do Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, which are the two new Avengers we've been introduced to since the old lot, right?
Indeed.
And I know that Civil War obviously had Black Panther in it. And I know that there's been a lot of Netflix stuff with Jennifer, what's its name, and past John. This is future John again. I think you mean Jessica, what's her name, not Jennifer, and Luke Cage. But we're not going to go into any of that. We're going to try and keep this short and snappy, talk about the two movies. But let's also, as we just bemoan the state of things, let's now talk about where we find Marvel at the end of 2016. How are you feeling about it all, sir?
Me, I'm pretty much an apostate in these matters, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. From a financial perspective, my God, they couldn't be more dominant. They stand astride the world as the kings of mass market entertainment cinema, pretty much entirely antithetical to your usual wheelhouse, John. But
yes, right.
I'm a comic book nerd, so I've apparently quote unquote won the culture. If this is winning, though, goddamn, doesn't feel certainly doesn't feel like it.
It's sort of bittersweet, isn't it? Because what has ended up happening.
From my perspective, all we've really won is the experience of seeing our favorite stories gutted and dumbed down for the Disney empire. I mean, it's
right.
There's a Lovecraftian horror. If ever I saw one, reaching out to swallow everything. I'm on a Lord of the Rings kick, so you'll forgive me but yeah,
it's absolutely fine.
That's just the image in my head. That whenever I think about all of this, it's madness. Honestly, just complete madness.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what it is that Disney doesn't own at this point in terms.
would be a shorter list, wouldn't it?
Right.
But they have perfected what I can only describe as full spectrum dominance of entertainment. Their goal is to get them from cradle to the grave, basically, like McDonald's.
And isn't it interesting?
or cigarette companies.
And isn't it interesting how our fellow protesters or fellow people who notice injustices in the world of corporations will stand up tall and march and shout and Facebook post and all the rest of it about
they'll Facebook post.
Right. A lot less will show up to actually vote because the same people
let's be honest here.
Yeah, the same people who protest and Facebook post are also the same people that go, well, politicians don't represent me, so I'm not going to vote. And you go, well, actually, then you're throwing away the only leverage you actually have left because your placards and your memes are all very well, but what actually matters is the fact that only a third of the fucking country voted.
Even bothers to show up. Yes.
Right.
But on the other hand, I can't really blame anyone for feeling completely alienated from everyday life. My thing is I just read a bunch of Philip K. Dick books when I was a kid. Yeah. So to me, this kind of feels familiar.
Yeah, this is what we were all expecting. Anyone who studied Orwell or Philip K. Dick knows what
or watched Brazil. Jesus Christ.
Yes, it is a little insane that we all seem to be living in a worse version of Gilliam's nightmares. Like, we always thought Gilliam's nightmares
Zero
were
Theorem, then.
Yeah, right. Well, but that was what's so interesting about when Zero Theorem came out, and I must go back to my previous point that I didn't finish about corporations, but let me the Zero Theorem thing, is that by the time Zero Theorem came out, it seemed quaint. That's what was insane about it, was that I was like, this isn't really the futuristic nightmare. This is actually sort of what we live in every day.
Right now, yeah. For years I said this about RoboCop. People told me, oh, why you got to be so cynical?
Yeah.
Well, turns out I wasn't cynical enough. But
no, right.
To your point, yes, the people who will Facebook post.
So they'll stand up against.
They go hard for these Marvel movies because.
But my point was going to be that they will be outraged quite rightly so and quite legitimately about things like oil companies or banks, because obviously there is a immediate cause and effect one can see when a pipeline bursts and floods crude into drinking water, or when housing markets collapse and so on and so forth. You can immediately see it, and it feels good to rail against that. However, in the meantime, you have the conglomerates of entertainment media companies literally engulfing our entire entertainment. And what that means is, even to the point where when someone like a businessman like Trump gets in and there is talk about controlling and restricting the internet, we even then lose things like podcasting, YouTube, videoing, and all the rest of it, which is still the last bastion of kind of independent media. But what happens when people unawares allow the large conglomerates to engulf all of entertainment and all of media, that also indicates what we learn, what we take in, what inspires us, what messages we feel, what emotions we feel, and all the rest of it. Because, like it or not, entertainment matters on a huge scale that human beings seem to sweep under the carpet. Yes, the environment matters. Yes, war matters. Yes, banks matter, all the rest of it. Not saying they don't. But entertainment, when it comes down to the thought police, or it comes down to propaganda, or it comes down to any of those things, having control over your own entertainment, that really fucking matters. And slowly and surely, the giant leviathan of Disney or whoever is, or Comcast is swallowing up the sky.
I was going to say, you're in Time Warner territory, aren't you?
Not anymore. I believe it's called Spectrum, which is just... Yeah.
Oh, God. Perfect. Yeah, perfect name for it, too.
Well, because what it is it's like...
They know their audience, shall we say.
Well, not only that, but they're sort of going, oh, shit, Time Warner. Everybody hates Time Warner. Let's call ourselves something else that sounds like possibly like broad-spectrum antibiotics. They help people. Spectrum, it sounds nice. Light reflects through it. Like, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It sounds almost like the gay flag with the rainbow on it. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's all so, yes, it's this wonderful rebranding, but as someone once said, you can't polish a turd. But
yes, that someone never met like P.T. Barnum. Obviously.
Right, exactly. Or William Castle, if we want to keep it within the movie realm.
Oh, yes, even better. Well, God, that still works. Yes, because this is America, where we polish every turd and then sell it back to you for $19.95.
Or vote for it. But anyway, so let's stop our collective cynicism and misery and go back. So creatively speaking, though, in terms of what have we had? We've had the big one was Civil War, right? That was the big one that came out. Sort of Avengers 2.5.
Correct.
Minus the Hulk.
Correct.
And I have to say, again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because we may do it on another show.
Yeah, we can. Can we wait for that, please? I haven't reviewed it yet, and
sure.
My thoughts on it are all over the place and probably mean, but I don't know.
I mean, I would say that I was massively underwhelmed, just to kind of tell you where I was with that.
That's a very polite way of putting it. Yeah.
Yes, no, I was. And I mean, to the point where halfway through, Kim and I, when we got together, she had seen some of the Marvel stuff, but not all of it. And I knew that Guardians 2 was coming up that I wanted to see. And I knew that she wanted to see Doctor Strange. And there was a couple of other titles that she wanted to see that I was kind of like, well, you sort of have to watch all of them. So we watched, I think we watched all of them, actually. I think we went through...
you did the long haul? You did the marathon?
Yeah. So we did all the Iron Mans, the 2 Thors, the 2 Captain Americas, Guardians 1, Avengers 1, Avengers 2, and whatever else. Anyway, so we watched all of those, and... in the lead up to it, and when Civil War came out, we rented it on iTunes because we don't really go to the theater anymore. And we rented it and watched it, and within half an hour, we were both looking at each other and going, "I don't know that I want to keep watching this." Like, it was literally like, it's become that soap opera that you feel if you miss an episode, you'll never be able to claw your way back. So you have to sit through some real dirge to get to the odd nugget. That's how I'm feeling about it now. The whole universe in general. How are you feeling about it?
Yes, that would be fairly accurate. I'd call it, the midpoint in any decent Joss Whedon TV series. But yeah, not even that. I'd say season 6 of Buffy is where we're at right now.
That is a very, very good description of where we are in the Marvel Universe. I agree with that.
But of course, early, not later season 6 when everybody was dying, but early season 6 when everybody was just kind of spinning their wheels and waiting for because that's what they're doing. They're spinning their wheels till Avengers 3, which we were supposed to get by now originally, but plans change, and even giant organizations are not monolithic, and so much has changed. I mean, we were supposed to get Doctor Strange in like 2007 and 8. I remember hearing that they were working on the script in 2005. But
I think when I saw Stan Lee talk at Wizard World in, I want to say 2011 or 2012, he was like, the next one they're doing is Doctor Strange.
Yeah, so, there you go.
Yeah, so even then. But what's been interesting for me...
I know for a fact we were supposed to get Ant-Man earlier than we did.
Yeah, I mean, that really set a whole lot of things back, because they obviously wanted Ant-Man in Civil War. And so what ended up happening, because the whole Edgar Wright fiasco... It sort of meant that Ant-Man came out late. In fact, it came out at the beginning of Phase 3, while I think it was meant to be sort of middle of Phase 2.
Oh, I'm fully convinced it was meant to be in like Phase 1. They just couldn't figure out a good way to do it.
Right.
Until they hired your boy Edgar. But then they kept... putting him off.
So what happened with that? Because, I mean, I read a lot of sort of, conflicts of interest or conflicts of opinions. But, what actually happened? Have you read up on it? Because, to be honest, I fell by the wayside and couldn't care less at a certain point.
I have. Right, exactly. Which was exactly the problem. But, okay. Ant-Man is an interesting case. Because I reviewed this a couple of months ago, so you'll forgive me if I repeat myself. I'm going to try my best not to. But really, the problem with Ant-Man is nobody knows who the hell he is, so you got to start from zero. And the other problem with a lot of Marvel characters that were created during that period that encompasses both Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and Iron Man is there's not a whole lot of daylight, honestly. In fact, everybody from like 1963 to about 65, which includes pretty much all the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. Everybody until you get to the original X-Men. That's why they had their initial success in the first place.
Because these are all guys tinkering with science. They're not, they're all sort of clones of themselves. Iron Man's suit could equally shrink down, and he could equally be Ant-Man in the same way that, he could equally have created the machines and the Fantastic Four, and like all the it could all kind of be the same think tank.
It's almost drain. It's almost like two guys were working, overtime to throw as much stuff onto the market as possible in a desperate attempt to keep their comic book business company from going completely out of business.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for example, there's like 4 months separate Iron Man's first appearance from Doctor Strange's first appearance. So it's no wonder they're the physics term would be like their ground states. It's no wonder that they're so similar, because how even as creative as Stan Lee and Steve Ditko were, how creative can you be when you're running that type of schedule?
Except obviously Iron Man is to do with the physical world, and Doctor Strange is to do with the, magic,
the mystical
within
world.
Yeah,
yes.
within dimensions. But no, I mean they both suffer. They both suffer a injury and or situation and or problem that they use their last ounce of intelligence and passion to rise again. Let's say.
Yes, to overcome. And in the process, this characterizes most of the characters in the latter part of Stan Lee's career. But he had he had a project going on late in life that was noble, at least in its intentions, of taking characters that he figured his audience would automatically hate and then turning them into heroes through some kind of traumatic experience. Because he'd already done the hero that's supposed to be the audience in Spider-Man, or the Hulk, if you want to go, if you're of a slightly different temperament. And so, what else are you gonna...
even the Hulk is a normal human tinkering with science. I mean,
indeed, as is Dr. Hank Pym,
right.
And that's really, I think, why it took them so long to get to Ant-Man, because they couldn't crack that. Okay, we did Iron Man, everybody loved it, but everybody loved it because of Robert Downey Stark. There's only one of him.
Right.
So what are we going to do? And people don't really like Hank Pym, because the Hank Pym in the comics has gone through a long history of rapid and wild personality shifts, to the point where most of his best known incarnations, at least these days, partially thanks to the internet outrage machine, but at least these days, his best known incarnations are Hank Pym, rapist werewolf.
Oh, really?
Hank Pym, wife beater. Hank Pym, the sufferer of dissociative disorder that turns him evil. The Hank Pym who destroys the world. Hank Pym who's a zombie.
See, this is what's fascinating. People listening to this episode who haven't heard previous David and I episodes, first of all, why not go back and listen to them? Because this is actually a long-running series that we've been doing on the show. We just took a gap because of various reasons, and now we're back. But the reason why David is the perfect person to discuss comic book movies with is because he comes from the comic background and the movie background. But he comes from the comic background, and I come from the movie background. So I can talk to the layman's experience of Marvel comic book movies, and David can rattle off all the different incarnations of Hank Pym, who I still think just looks like Michael Douglas. Anyway.
Exactly. And you see how they finally squared the circle. You see how they finally figured out how to do this.
Yes, because instead of doing Hank Pym's origin story, they do the guy who would be Ant-Man, the guy who takes on the mantle, right?
Yes. Thankfully, there've been at least 3 Ant-Man over the years, not counting various incarnations from alternate dimensions.
Right.
So there, yes.
But the Paul Rudd character, remind me of the name.
Scott.
Right.
Scott Lang.
Scott Lang. Scott Lang is
here you see the first problem with Scott Lang right there.
What, the Paul Rudd contingent?
No, the fact you couldn't even remember his fucking name.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, listen, I've seen this movie 3 times, so but I didn't watch it in preparation for this episode. But I know what happens in the movie.
Right.
He shrinks, right, and fights another guy who shrinks, just in the same way that in the same way that Iron Man had a suit, and then the other guy got a suit, and they fought each other.
Yes, wait, which time are you talking about with the oops?
Well, the first two times.
Right, yeah. No, I know.
The third time is actually a good movie.
Well, and yeah, actually, because you notice that, that
he's barely in the suit.
They de-emphasize the suits and emphasize their disposability.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that's great until, of course, Avengers 2 comes along to completely run that 180 degrees.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was lots of problems with Avengers 2. The fact that it negated Iron Man 3 or didn't even continue to follow it on was one of them. But
I know why Pepper left his ass, because he took back Christmas present.
Exactly. I like to believe the Marvel Universe ended with Iron Man 3 and watch all these other movies that have come since
Don't do that. Don't treat it the way those dead people do. Don't just disassociate. This is all of a glorious piece.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Except in the end, it'll either look like the Eiffel Tower or the Titanic.
Right, and we're probably a bit of both. But it's probably the Eiffel Tower on top of the Titanic, and it's still all going to crash. But the
iceberg with Godzilla in it.
But the Scott Lang character, that's still comic book lore, right? They didn't just invent that for the movie. He is in the books, right? Yeah.
Scott's been in and out of the suit since the 2000s.
And how close were they with his origin story, the prison breakout, cat burglar stuff?
Not a single fucking bit.
So that's all made up.
Yes, this is the funny bit, right? As these Marvel movies have grown more popular, they have decided that they don't. The idea that they were somehow faithful to their source material is entirely based on aesthetics. It's pretty much a lie. I mean, they get the costumes right sometimes, but even that's And by this point, they just don't care. They're like, every time we make one of these, we have a license to print $1 billion. So fuck it.
And also, I mean,
the one thing they did do was in Scott's first appearance, he does have to battle a evil billionaire named Darren Cross.
Right.
But that's it. In the comics, he has to rescue his daughter from Darren because Cross literally wants to steal her heart,
right?
Because his own is burning out due to superpowers,
of course,
induced thrombosia or something.
So what I mean is, what I was going to say though, is that while there would certainly be something to be said for a faithful rendering of some of the popular storylines, it can also be said, as you just pointed out with Hank Pym, and it is true of other things. There's multiple Iron Men, there's multiple Spider-Men, and so on.
Any color you like. Yes.
Right. So the comics have done it for years, retelling origin stories, creating new ones, handing on the baton, all that kind of stuff. So the fact that the movies are doing it, there is that certain thing that I'm sure comic book fans have where they think, oh, it would have been nice to have seen X, Y, and Z, but ultimately you're at least getting an Ant-Man movie, and 10 years ago, who thought that was possible? You know what I mean?
That is the immediate counter argument to pretty much everything.
Which, by the way, is the only way that I've been able to watch and thoroughly enjoy Ash versus Evil Dead was because it's a great series, but it's also an incredibly frustrating series for so many reasons. But what I have to keep saying to myself is, for 20 years we were told that we were getting an Evil Dead 4. Now we have 10 more hours of Ash. I'll take it. I'll shut up and I'll take it.
I still say, okay, that's fine, man. I'll be out here still pushing for a big budget version of the musical. Because
right, yeah.
If they gave that the Reefer Madness treatment, man, that's my dream. That's what I wanted to see.
That's what you wanted to see. But you see, the trouble is you couldn't have Bruce in that. Bruce wouldn't be able to sort of sing and dance and do all that stuff.
True. But yeah.
I mean, you could have, but then also it's that would also be a weird remake of 1, 2, and 3 all mashed together, which would be fun, but it would be more It would be more like a fan film than a proper movie, I think.
Yes, but after all, wasn't your last episode all about how we should annihilate the distinctions between how we look at films, and equating it to garage bands?
Oh yeah, no. First of all, I'm surprised you listened. Thank you very much. Secondly,
I do my homework, motherfucker.
Yeah, you do. But secondly, no, you're completely correct. I just mean that
I've seen some good ashes on stage, shall we say?
Of course, no, and there's even a great company that do fan films that did Ash versus Marvel Zombies and an Ash versus. Ooh. What else did they do? They did an Ash versus something else as well. Just 20-minute long type things.
Have they done a Darkman versus Army of Darkness yet? Because if they have, so, no. I will offer them my soul. No, damn it. Oh well.
But no. So yeah. So anyway, my only point.
There's the shared universe crossover. I'm waiting. I got that in a comic.
Well, I want Snake and Jack Burton. and I want Ash and Darkman, both of which have happened in comic books, but they haven't happened on the movie screen. But no, my only point being, and not to denigrate fan films, which are awesome, but my only point being that sometimes you have to take what you can get if you are even remotely a fan of these things, and that isn't a broad sweep, because there are always exceptions to every rule, but I think if you're going to get an Ant-Man movie or if you're going to get an Evil Dead TV show, we'll take what we can get, right?
If we were talking about Batman, Superman, I'd say yes.
Now you see, that's the other big one that came out.
This is not meant to distract anyone. Sorry,
I didn't.
I just
see
couldn't
it.
resist.
I couldn't even talk to it. I didn't see it. I will not be giving DC any of my money until they drop Zack Snyder from the roster.
Mm-hmm. So. And that's unfortunate because I think he's getting better. With every movie he does, it's incredible. It's uncanny.
Well, I mean, he can't get any worse. Man of Steel was... Anyway, we're not doing this. So...
Right. No, not again, Jar Jar.
Not again. But no, so Ant-Man. So we've got Scott Lang, Paul Rudd. Let's go into the movie now.
Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. Yes.
And we've got... They
did that for my mom.
Yes, they did. But also for me, I love Michael Douglas. I think he's awesome and a thoroughly underrated actor. But
true. He would have been a great Hank Pym like 20 years ago when Marvel sold all their rights off to like Canon films.
Yes, he would have been like Black Rain era. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. And we kind of get that. We kind of get we get stock footage. Well, archival footage.
We get that wonderful. Where they've been doing, and they did it with Civil War and Iron Man as well, but the de-aging process, which is just shy of Uncanny Valley territory.
It has. I will say though, it has improved markedly since Tron Legacy.
Yes,
I mean, you remember that abomination.
but when I saw it done in Ant-Man, which I did see on the big screen. I was actually very impressed. I actually thought that looks the business. And I liked the fact that we got a little bit of early S.H.I.E.L.D. We got a little bit of the, backbiting and politics that went into trying to form an imperfect system.
We got Peggy before her unceremonious death.
Yeah, but she'll be back. They'll bring her back.
She better fucking be. That's the kind of thing.
ABC's already cancelled her TV show, so.
Mm-hmm.
But she'll be back.
That's
the lovely Haley Atwell.
Pisses me off, right? Right? God damn it! What? Who gets Haley Atwell in their movie and puts her in old makeup, gives her 5 seconds of screen time? Whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, because the people in Marvel who have really been given the short shrift has been Haley Atwell, Our Lady Sith from the Thor movies, Alexander, what's her name?
Yes. Poor Alex.
And although she has a bit more to do in Captain America Part 2, but the what's her name from? Oh, damn it, I can't remember her now, but she's one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
Agent 13, yes.
What's her name now? She's been in a lot of Paul Rudd stuff as well. She's Kobe Smulders.
You talk about Colby. Sorry, yes.
Kobe, yeah.
Right.
She gets the short shrift. Lady Sith, who's played by something Alexander. Forget what her name is now. And then Haley Atwell. They were the three that I think ages ago when we were first talking about Avengers and then Captain America 2 and stuff, they were the ones where we were like, I want to see stories about them, please. But they don't have time, unfortunately.
Well, Sif did get Jamie Alexander. Sif did get one shot on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same kind of thing. And then she went off and did her own TV show, but...
Yeah, right. Yeah, but no, she's not going to be part of the Defenders, so that'll have to wait. That's the other thing, too, right? As their popularity increases and as this strange train keeps on running, the possibility that it'll slam into something before we get to stuff that we want increases markedly.
I don't know why. Like, for example, we were talking about ages ago wanting the Howling Commandos movie and wanting a backstory for Hawkeye and Black Widow, and we're saying
hard traveling heroes. It'd be awesome.
How great it would be, especially with something like Netflix now. Make a Netflix movie. Not everything has to be a $300 million tentpole thing. They could start doing, they're doing TV series. They could start doing one-shot movies that are, let's say, 60 mil. You know what I mean? And all they have to do is go on net. They screen in a cinema for a couple of weeks and then they go onto Netflix. Like, they could
better
do
than
that.
all the Asylum films clogging up my Netflix feed. Yes.
Right? Imagine a Howling Commandos thing. Like, that would be awesome, Imagine what is Thor's little group called? The
Warriors.
The Warriors, right.
Yes.
Imagine a little story about them. Like, I would totally go for that. That would be awesome.
And, but unfortunately, now our only refuge is still cartoons.
Yeah.
For that kind of thing. Which, the Avengers cartoon they got right now, not so bad. But then because they hired actual comic book writers, surprise, surprise.
Nice. So in Ant-Man, we get that great opening bit with the de-aged cast, which I did enjoy, because I'm still fascinated about like the. I love it when they go back in time. I love the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D. I like older Stark and all that. I loved seeing it all in Captain America, like the early stages of it all and the early machines and all that kind of. I like a bit of the steampunk element to it, so that was always fun. And I liked actually in Ant-Man how Hank Pym's home and the original suit maintain some of that, dusty thrift store, steampunk, old library feel to it. I liked all that.
Oh, I totally want the Pym household. Yes, it is absolutely awesome. I want his safe. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, the other big person in the cast is she who could be really replaced by anybody. Evangeline Lilly, who is just such a... even when she was on Lost and actually had a character, she was still someone where I looked at her and I was like, wait a minute, who is that again? She could be any number of like 4 actors. She looks exactly the same as them all. Like, any one of them could be interchangeable. It's kind of like the Jessica Chastain and Bryce Dallas Howard kind of thing. Like, you could just interchange these people.
Oh God, that's like Zeno's paradox.
Right.
Yeah, but she doesn't. Unfortunately, she doesn't get much to do in this thing except be team pessimist, which is why her name is Hope.
Right, exactly. But she looks like Lynn Collins. She looks like Emma Stone. She's, they could all be interchangeable. these people. Although Emma Stone has the edge, she's a pretty good actor, I guess. But like,
right. When she has things to do,
when she's not slumming it in Cameron Crowe, how does he still have a career? Mildly offensive movie.
or being lady in waiting for fucking Spider-Man.
Right, exactly.
And his sorry ass.
Kick that Brit back across the pond.
As well they should. No, I'm just kidding.
So then we get the Ant-Man storyline, which is him getting out of prison, hooking up with
Quentin, no
San
less.
Quentin, hooking out with Michael Pena,
and the Rainbow Coalition. I must say, most ethnically diverse group of friends that I've seen in quite some time. This bunch that he's got. We got Michael Pena. We have the State Department's favorite boogeyman, a Russian hacker. And we have another David, like, my fellow Dave, Tip Harris.
Mm-hmm. These are the Daves I know. 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 David Hoffner, he works in my dad's store. He's worked here for 12 years. He'll probably work here for more. These are the Daves I know. 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 Dave Gord, I've known since I was 6. In grade 8 he broke his leg, so we got drunk and sick. These are the Daves I know. 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 Some of them are Davids,
but most of us are Daves.
They all have their own hands, but they come from different moms.
And they all and together with Scott Lang, they are I don't know, with their powers combined, they can form Captain Planet and steal shit. And so they try to steal some shit from Hank Pym. And it turns out this was part of Hank Pym's evil plan all along. Well, not evil plan, good plan, because he has to stop one of his erstwhile protege, man who would be Ant-Man Mark II, Darren Cross, from weaponizing the shrinking suit and selling it off to the highest bidder, like billionaire industrialist geniuses in the Marvel universe are like to do.
Yeah. He who would be the bald man who isn't Mark Strong.
My boy Mark Strong, yes, Sinestro. That's right. He would have. Oh man, he would have rocked this. He would have rocked this.
He who would be Mark Strong, and then you have this bald guy who also plays villains.
Corey Stoll, yes. But yet again, for like the
he wants the Hank Pym particle. But old Hank decides to pass it on to petty cat burglar Paul Rudd. And how
not just a petty cat burglar though. He can't. That would be too morally ambiguous. He has to be digital Robin Hood. I mean, because later Cross's villain monologue, right. He makes reference to, he calls Scott a rebel who fought against the system and sacrificed it all. And just your kind of guy, Hank. And so we have to. Comic book Scott was too ambiguous because he was just a glorified cat burglar. But movie Scott must be virtuous in a completely, in a way that doesn't really require him to do much of anything.
Right, and he must have a little girl who loves him to death, but an evil mother who doesn't want to spend time with him, and da-da-da-da-da.
I don't know if she's necessarily even coded as evil, really. I mean,
she's not evil, but like the daughter loves him, right?
Their house, and their house is so warm, and it's just warm color palettes everywhere, and just exploding in pastels. That no, she can't. She's not evil. He's just a deadbeat douche,
the stepfather is a dick,
and yet not nearly as much of a dick as he would be if this were like, say, an '80s movie.
Right. No. If it was an 80s movie, he would be slick back hair and he would wear a roll neck and he would...
They could have gone with just making him a complete antagonist, but at least they tried to he gets the moral ambiguity from the opposite direction because, he really does want to do right by this, hot MILF he's hooked up with. And he really is suspicious of her ex for good fucking reason. I mean, you're always suspicious of the ex.
Talk about the most thankless role in a Marvel movie. Poor Judy Greer being reduced to simply Scott Lang's put upon ex-wife. You're like, really? Judy Greer is amazing. And she's in this role. It's such a shame because, and also Michael Peña's amazing and he gets some cool scenes, but he's not quite the sidekick yet. I guess that's where it's going.
No, he gets his stories. Yes. His stories are about, the only, creatively directed bit of the movie that aren't related to shrinking. Right. I mean, that's when things come, when he takes the narrator baton, that's when things come alive with an actual energy. And it's weird. It's this, I don't know, it seems like a fragment of almost something that Edgar Wright could have come up with, because the Rainbow Coalition of down on their luck criminals is pretty much right up his wheelhouse, I think.
And it's quite staggering to see the fact that the people who worked on this movie, Edgar Wright, Joe Cornish, Adam McKay, and Paul Rudd, all as writers, are all certainly all the writers that are credited. Because of course there's always 40 people who aren't credited on these kind of films. But the four main writers, they're all strong writers in their own right. And this does have, it wasn't the most exciting, wonderful, or original origin story on the planet, but it was certainly entertaining. It certainly wasn't the one of the ones that I watched that I went, I actually watched it and it was entertaining. There was some neat moments in it. There was some funny bits in it. I happen to be a Paul Rudd fan. I know a lot of people aren't, but I happen to be a Paul Rudd fan. He's not really done anything that's pissed me off. So, and I'll always have a soft spot because of Anchorman and role models. And the fact that no matter where Paul Rudd was in his climb to fame, he always went back and worked with David Wayne and the State. No matter how little money they had, he always went and did his bit with them. So I've always had a soft spot for Rudd. But what was your feeling, dude, as someone who's maybe less less soft than I am when it comes to people like Rudd? What was your feeling about the cast in this one, or certainly Paul Rudd, anyway? It was
unfortunately another point of confirmation in the growing fear that I've had I call it the Chris Prattening at this point, because there just seems to be a trend among screenwriters in Hollywood these days for just this entirely bland, gumless fuck of a protagonist.
But I don't think Paul Rudd is a gumless fuck.
It's true. But
I mean, Scott Lang may be written that way,
but he's playing that's the problem, though. He might not be, but he's playing a Scott Lang who is I'm not saying the protagonist can never be the guy who has to ask all the stupid questions in a movie,
right?
But I'm noticing that he is becoming that guy more and more as time has gone on.
Yeah, his role in the Avengers will be to sit on the sideline and occasionally go, why is that happening? So that they can cut to Captain Exposition. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And Jurassic World is really what I mean. That so far, that's the ne plus ultra of of this.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jurassic World, interesting because we talk about that on this week's episode with Jim briefly, but like Jurassic World was one of those that was very entertaining, but the script was awful and the cast could have been interchangeable with mops with faces drawn on them. I mean,
construction paper cutouts,
right?
Like some of my Japanese animes.
Because ultimately, the only thing that had any character were the dinosaurs themselves, which was a bit hilarious. But no, so the Chris Pratt thing, I agree with you when it comes to Star-Lord, because my problem with that is that Star-Lord actually has, certainly in its scripting, a little bit of meat on its bones and a little bit of swagger and a little bit of something that could be played by someone who, for some reason, Hollywood thinks Chris Pratt is the next Harrison Ford, and the last thing Chris Pratt is the next fucking Harrison Ford.
And isn't he like the third or fourth next Harrison Ford at this point?
Because Harrison Ford can raise an eyebrow and grit his teeth, and it's more entertaining than anything Chris Pratt has ever done. And I don't necessarily hate Chris Pratt. I'm just saying he was better as the lovable, fat, dopey schlub than he was as the swaggery, braggadocio,
generic action man. He's generic. He's generic action man.
Right, but only because that's kind of where they've put him. There are people, True. Harrison Ford, Bruce Campbell, I would even say Michael Douglas, people like that, who you can give a generic action man to, and they immediately add a layer to it that is entertaining, the lovable rogue, right?
Yes.
They add that layer to it. And Pratt doesn't have that. He's lovable, but he's not roguish.
No.
And Star-Lord's meant to have some swagger to him, and Star-Lord's meant to have some selfishness and roguishness to him. And that's what he's not playing. It's in the script, but he's not able to convey it. And there are some people who can and some people who can't. George Clooney can. He can do it. And I know what you mean. Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, although, they give him 3-day stubble and they put him in a fist fight in a prison and all the rest of it, he's not got the edge that's even for, like you say, a cyber Robin Hood. He still doesn't have that edge necessarily that's needed that makes you believe he could make this leap. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And they couldn't, they keep, instead of committing to like one set of character traits, they tried to half-ass it. And the same is true, I'd say, for most of the characters in Ant-Man, unfortunately, except of course the CGI ants, but they're just ants. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, you say that, but which is the ant that dies? That it was absolutely
Anthony.
Anthony, that had me in tears, David.
Somebody's idea of a good joke.
That had me in tears, David. I won't deny it. When Anthony died. Spoilers.
And meanwhile, I'm up in the fifth row trying to contain my fucking laughter.
Yeah,
that was you got to admit, though, that is the best fucking shot anybody has ever made. I'm like, is this guy Yellow Jacket or fucking Bullseye?
Right.
Because Bullseye ain't showed up in Daredevil yet, so I haven't seen him since 2003.
What's also weird is when you think of the writers, certainly Edgar Wright and Adam McKay.
Yes.
Their sense of humor is much sharper and harsher and aggressive, almost in a good way. I'm not saying that as a negative.
No, I'd say
in a good
body.
way.
Would you?
I mean, there's a
co-sign to the word body.
There's a bawdiness to it, but I mean, it's more nihilistic. When you think of something like Step Brothers, or you think of something like Anchorman, or they're writing, or even if you think of stuff like Shaun of the Dead has more heart to it. Okay, Shaun of the Dead and
true,
and
but
Hot
I'm thinking
Fuzz
like World's End.
Right. Yes, there's a bawdiness to both things because comedy generally lends itself to that. But I think that they both have a much they can both do grittier comedy. They're not afraid to say "fuck you," is what I'm saying.
Indeed. And you can't say that in a PG-13 summer blockbuster. For
but
kids.
I mean the sense, the sensibility isn't like. What's incredible is that while there are a few nods to that sense of humor, I'm thinking of the Dunkin' Donuts Baskin Robbins thing. There is some nods to that sense of humor, which is kind of surreal and funny and wonderful. The fact that it is such a run of the mill, and I mean that in the not necessarily the best interpretation of that, but just it's a standard run of the mill cookie cutter Marvel movie
without condoning or condemning, right?
I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It's the one that I would put on if I wanted something in the background. It's not one that I need to necessarily watch every tiny minute of to care.
Total clean your house movie, yeah.
Right. Whereas you look at now, obviously he has the whole galaxy to play with, but something like Guardians of the Galaxy at least delves into a slightly darker, more aggressive kind of humor. And I don't mean that I mean for a Marvel movie. I don't mean that.
No, but you're entirely correct. Yes, Guardians at least, yes, lends itself, and the material honestly lends itself to that more anyway, because as you say, they have the whole universe to play in, so they can, yes, and not just in terms of the comedy, but in terms of the scope of the story as well. I mean, they can go to the severed head of a dead god, that's just a casual scene transition,
Right. And therefore it plays more to my sensibility, and also the sensibility of the comedy in it. Whereas Ant-Man, I guess the biggest problem with Ant-Man, because it's not a bad movie, but it's not a good movie, and it's not it's not a piece of shit, but it's not great. And the biggest problem with it is that you see the studio in it. It's all those people with all of their edges rounded off to a big squidgy semicircle. There are no hard lines in this movie at all, really, except to take a slight pop at Baskin Robbins, which was probably paying for their spot in the sun anyway. Though
I must give credit where it's due. That the conclusion of the climactic battle was deliciously upsetting, and it's sudden. Reminded me of an older era. Reminded me honestly of Gremlins when the Mogwai explodes in the microwave. Yeah. But yes, to see a man fold inward on himself, like something. It was more Cronenbergian than anything in 2015's Fantastic Four movie, which is an explicit homage to 80s body horror.
Yeah, no, I haven't gone near any
disguised
of the
as a superhero movie. Oh God, don't go. No, don't go there. I
haven't gone near any of them. I haven't even seen the old ones.
You want to see
Chris Evans.
Here's why I'm not too down on Ant-Man, because in retrospect, I see how much worse things could have gone, honestly. And especially with Fant Forstick, as I call it, being right over there, it's hard to work up the energy. I mean, you want to see squandered potential. You want to see a studio in a film. You want to see the complete and total bastardization of what was once an awesome idea. Watch Josh Trank's Fantastic Four, which isn't really Josh Trank's Fantastic Four, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up Ant-Man now and go on to Doctor Strange. I need to grab a glass of water, but because I think we both kind of feel the same way about it. But I think that my quick capsule review would be: imagine Edgar Wright and Adam McKay making a Ant-Man movie starring Paul Rudd, and then imagine Edgar Wright not being able to make that movie. This is exactly the movie you get. Like it's exactly
leaving halfway through. Yeah, this is the one time where I totally accept the creative differences excuse at face value.
Right.
110%. I'm like, yep, that was bound to happen in retrospect.
And in a weird way, because I'm not a Scott Pilgrim fan, and that's the only film that I have outside of the Cornetto trilogy to go by with Edgar Wright, I'm almost happy that his directorial style is not all over this. I quite like Peyton Reed and the way that he took this on. Yes, he's a bit milder and he's less flashy, but I think, and we'll get onto this definitely with Doctor Strange, but I think that when you're dealing with effects, if your camera is also all over the place, and your characters are all over the place, and your effects are all over the place, it all loses something and becomes a big soup. Whereas if you have a solid backbone behind the camera, and a solid story and a solid actor, you can go a bit weirder and a bit crazier with the effects. And Guardians of the Galaxy, and it works.
Yeah, and have, say, a fist fight inside of a suitcase that's inside of a helicopter that's falling into suburban San Francisco.
Yeah, you need, like, if you had Edgar Wright cutting every 30 seconds or less, and had his camera whipping all around, there would be some joy in that for a few minutes, but it would be hard to take for a whole movie. You know, I praise Edgar for many a thing, but not necessarily his action scenes. Right,
unless his strongest suit.
Right, unless they're parody ones a la Hot Fuzz, then in which case it kind of works.
True.
Hey everybody, hello. I'm just interrupting the podcast you're listening to tell you all about Educated Hustle. This is a podcast where their motto is stay educated and keep hustling. They do that by weekly interviewing entrepreneurs who decided to forgo what other people think and live their passions. The hosts, Paul L. and Emilio Porter, have known each other for 20 plus years, so bring the chemistry and great energy. They aren't afraid to comment on guests after they answer questions, which leads to some funny and occasionally over-the-top moments. They keep the show light yet insightful and, of course, always positive. If you're interested in following your dream with passion and verve, then listen to Educated Hustle Podcast.
Your guide to cinema etiquette from the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews Podcast. Tip 43.
When attending the cinema with your good friends or significant other, don't assume anyone else has any interest in what you have to say. So, always remember...
Whisper, fuckface! It's not rocket science. For more useful cinema etiquette, join Paul and Wayne on the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews Podcast at Podomatic on iTunes or your favorite podcast app.
What is the Potter family?
This is Gareth from the Open All Powers podcast.
This is Adam from Everyone Has a Podcast.
This is Matthew McDonough from the Passersby podcast.
This is Nick from the Epic Film Guys podcast.
This is Eric Mocker from the Mockers podcast.
Hey, this is Rick from Ice and the Face.
Hey guys, it's Rad Dad Chad,
J Mills, and Lil Man
from the Full of Fiber podcast.
Hey, we're Josh and David from the Scotch and Flicks podcast.
Hey y'all, it's Juliette Miranda from the Unwritable Rant podcast.
Hey, this is Bro from the World of Row podcast.
This is Cyanide from the Little Geek Lost podcast.
This is Paul from the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews podcast.
This is Greg from the Sports Stands podcast.
This is Knock from the Geek Yogurt podcast.
We are you, podcasters coming together in a community to help one another grow. So follow us on Twitter at Pod and Family and use the hashtag Pod and Family in your tweets and retweet other people who do the same. Pod and Family, where great podcasts come home.
Okay, so now on to 2016's Doctor Strange, and let me just get it all out into the open right away. Bendydick Slumbercrotch, Blumberflap Cabbage Patch. Let's just get it all out in the open.
Bennett, yes, Benihara Chamber Pot.
Yeah. There is actually, I think it's either a...
I'm not going to do that for the review. I could, but no, that would just, no. It'd just be a word salad.
Yeah, Flemdy-dig Bumgy Boobge. But no, there is
not
a...
con.
Yeah, .com. There is a...
no, not con, because remember when there was that bit before Into Darkness came out, when there was like, no, he's not Khan. We're not doing that again.
Shit,
no.
they got us. They got us. What do we do? Marketing men scrambling. But
just like with Lost.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be 3 seasons, and then halfway through the first season, people are like, "Oh, you mean it's purgatory?"
Dead. Yeah,
and
they're all
like,
dead, aren't they? And they're like, no.
No, wait, fuck, shit, push it to 5 seasons, stretch it out. Maybe people will forget. But yes, 2016's Doctor Strange, starring Bendydick Slumbercrotch, Chitwell Ejiofor,
the greatest of calamities.
Yeah, Chitwell Ejiofor, Rachel McSnooze,
Solomon Northrop,
Benedict Wong, Mads. All right, I'll play another villain. Mickelson, and Tilda Whitewash Swinton. So let's get into.
Snap! You never say no unkind word about my girl. Shit.
Well, we'll get onto that. I don't like. My whole thing is that they reference the fact that she is Gaelic or Celtic in it.
Celtic, yes, I caught that. That was interesting.
Which may quite well have been an ADR thing after they saw the shitstorm rise online. I like
Tempest in a teapot, like they all are.
It is a bit, and now I mean, but
I'm with the director though. You can't win. You can't win. Don't try. Is basically what it comes down to. It's.
I mean, I think I think we're in a place though. I think what people are saying. I mean, I agree, and it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning of the show about the left having lost their fucking sense of humor. So every tiny little thing, Scarlett Johansson starring Ghost in the Shell, is a reason to go fucking apeshit online. And at the end of the day, it's like, wait a minute, it's a remake of an anime starring Scarlett Johansson. It's gonna be shit. Like, it doesn't even, like, just, Bill Hicks used to say, like, just fucking take a deep breath, piece of shit, and move on. Like, it doesn't need to be discussed beyond that.
But we hold out the hope, don't we? We all hold the hope that, and God knows, some people have been wanting a live-action Ghost in the Shell for ages. I have no idea why.
No,
I am not among them. But though I will say that.
But here's the thing.
I knew I'd like this when they cast Tilda. I wasn't interested until
Tilda came on.
I'm like, oh yeah. Then I'm like, okay, I'm there, fine. And then the pictures started to come out, and I was like, oh, okay.
Well, you see, the thing about it is that it was a lot of crap over nothing because people hadn't seen the movie yet. And from what I understood from the movie, and again, not a comic book fan, people have never read an episode of, never read an edition of Doctor Strange. So from what I understood from the movie is that the master sorcerers can essentially be anyone. And the fact that this one is Celtic is just this one is Celtic. Another one might be Asian. Another one might be African. But this one is Celtic. And they put that in the storyline. Now, is that in keeping with the comic books? No, but was Ant-Man? And so where do you draw the line? You said, well, you can change Ant-Man's origin story, but if you change the race of this person...
nobody cares, yeah.
Right? So, but then... on the flip side of that,
That's not true. I'm sorry, Ant-Man fans. They are small, but they are militant.
They are militant.
And they should be, because they've been getting shit for years.
Sure.
But no, not their fault that certain writers have it out for their hero.
But the flip side of that argument to me is we do live in a world where especially with the influx of Asian movies and Asian action movies and so on and so forth, we should be at a place in 2016 where if a character calls for an Asian actor, get an Asian actor and shut the fuck up, you know? And I remember interviewing Don the Dragon Wilson and hearing a very interesting thing where he said when he would go up for parts in bigger movies, when they weren't his own starring movies, when he would go up for parts in bigger movies, because he looks Asian, but he's American, he's mixed race, they would want him to do that Asian American accent, that very stilted, affected Asian American accent. And he would be like, no, I'm talking with my own voice. Like, I talk American. This is how I talk. This is where I was raised. This is who I am. You know what I mean? Like, why do I have to put on that horrible cliche accent? And I think that, the danger is then, do you cast Tilda Swinton and say she's Celtic, which she actually is, or do you cast an Asian American who might talk exactly like you and I talk, David, but make him talk in some ancient, mystical, cliched, essentially equally offensive accent? Like the director says, you really can't win for losing. So
exactly, this is what. Yes, this was. I immediately got on Scott Derrickson's. I keep wanting to call him Dickerson for some reason. Derrickson's. I'm sorry, Scott Derrickson's side when I saw him, have the presence of mind to realize this.
Just because, and also let's not forget the old wise Asian guy who trains, the young, scrappy Caucasian guy is such a hoary old cliche at this point that even if it was true to the comic books, at least by casting A, a woman, and B, a Celtic woman, and C, shaving a head, and all the rest of it, at least you're going, well, look, it can be fucking anyone, so let's just make it like this crazy character and bend tradition so that it's not like wise old Asian guy with wizard white mustache, train young guy. Like, at least
no, they're gonna save that for Iron Fist.
Right. But you know what I mean? No. You know what I'm saying, though, David?
I do, because this is the same fucking thing they ran into with the Mandarin. And you see how they squared the circle with that in Iron Man 3.
Right.
They've never figured out a good way to, get around this, because they've realized by this point that they have a good chunk of the internet dedicated to being their unpaid arm of their marketing department.
Right.
For anything. I mean, that's you want me to talk about the state of Marvel movies themselves. They're fine. But you want me to talk about the state of Marvel fandom? Holy fucking shit. Are we ever doing a ton of unpaid labor for some of the largest companies in the world?
As someone who has just written and reviewed all 10 episodes of Ash vs. Evil Dead 2 for Stars, and still had to scrape and claw in order to get a couple of interviews, all free of charge, I might add, and promoted them to hell. The fact that it took me, I think, somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 emails to even get them to retweet an interview that I had done. Because what's incredible, what they say about to people like us, and it's the same with Marvel fans, is it's like, sure, you can have a screener, or you can have this poster, or you can have this T-shirt, whatever it is, but then, like, that's it. You have to produce the content and market it yourself, and we won't help, and we won't share it, and we won't. It's one button. And I was even writing, like, I wonder if I can get a retweet from Ash vs. Evil Dead today. And, like, it eventually happened, and I'm not, they've been very nice. But, like, at the same time, like, it was like pulling teeth to try and get any kind of recognition. And I'm like, hey, guys, over here doing all your marketing for you. You know what I mean?
And so is it any wonder that some publications have switched to covering the adversarial reaction to every casting decision that comes around? I mean, it's if you're not going to get anything from them, then, well, you might as well. And your self-proclaimed job is to, quote unquote, report entertainment news, as if that isn't an oxymoron. Then, of course, what do? You cover the controversy. Which is, a built-in narrative with two distinct sides that you can wring 500 words out while, sleepwalking on Ambien or whatever.
Right.
And boom, you're done. On to the next. Oh, what's next? Let's dissect every single fucking minute, second frame of whatever the next trailer is. for for an hour of baseless speculation on a movie none of us are going to see for 6 months. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't form our opinion right now.
Yeah.
Because we have to get all of the discussion of it out ahead of time, because as soon as the movie comes out, it's going to completely disappear from the public consciousness. It's ironic that Guardians was the last real Marvel movie we talked about, because that was the last one that had any real staying power, it seems to me. Civil War comes out, and there's like a week of it, say, and then gone. Ant-Man comes out, and there's nothing until the next teaser for Ant-Man 2 image drops.
Right.
And then because the hype train must move on. It can't stop. We don't have. I mean, really, we don't have time.
The one that came out. The one that came out and did not came out and literally made no waves at all was X-Men Apocalypse. Like that one came out and was like. Now I haven't seen it yet, so don't say anything. But and I haven't been a fan of the last. I'm a fan of the Wolverine. I'm really looking forward to Logan. But the younger the X-Men from the past movies, the last couple that we had,
First Class and Days of Future Past,
I wasn't a huge fan of, so I didn't rush to go see X-Men Apocalypse. But that was the one that came out, went, and then never. I think that all the column inches this year was swallowed up by Deadpool. That's kind of what ended up happening.
Oh, fuck Deadpool and everything associated with him. But yes, X-Men Apocalypse did indeed make some waves in my community of X fans, but they were not at all positive.
No,
you can rest assured that our boy Bryan Singer has squandered whatever goodwill he managed to create from Days of Future Past.
X-Men 3 not looking so bad at this point, then.
That's an interesting question, actually. I
actually like X-Men 3. I've watched it with the other two, and I don't see the big drop-off, but that's just me.
Understandable. We've discussed that.
We have discussed that.
But yes,
I believe we did 2 podcasts that discussed all 8 of the fuckers.
8 extant at the time, yes. Yeah. But I'll be glad to get back together with you for Logan.
Have we done The Wolverine?
You would know. It's your archive. I got enough trouble keeping track of what I have uploaded and haven't, and what's been uploaded and instantly worldwide blocked by Warner Brothers, or what's been shit. I'm still working on my backlog, yo. But if we haven't, then we should, because.
Well, because I think we should do that when Logan comes out. But back to Doctor Strange. You're completely right. Let's go to the
fuck casting controversies.
Fuck all of that.
Fuck the internet.
Fuck the internet. That is the only reason that I'm able to do this show. Yeah.
The internet was a mistake.
But this really is a case of who haven't we cast in a Marvel movie yet? Get those people. Because these are all people who have more or less been in some form of blockbuster in the past, shoehorned into a Marvel movie. And I imagine...
That's the real joke. While we are out here, complaining about whitewashing, and I'm a fan of The Last Airbender, so I have as much. No, I have as well. I was a fan of it when it was called Avatar: The Last Airbender, but they couldn't use that for the title of the movie for some reason. So I have as much right to complain about the whitewashing as anyone.
Right.
But it's the point being that it's the way casting decisions are made these days has nothing to do with anyone's hopes or dreams of representational media. At a certain level of budget, it's there are spreadsheets and there are apps, there are programs specifically designed to pick out, okay, this person was in these many movies that made this much money. And therefore, if we cast them in our movie will make this much money.
Yes, because essentially Mads Mikkelsen is...
all the thought that goes into it.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen is reprising his role from Casino Royale. Chitwell Ejiofor is reprising...
I was like, Lashif, my man, where you been?
He's reprising... Chitwell Ejiofor is reprising his role from Serenity. Hello, Johnson. Could you tell Perkins that we've got some spoilers coming up? Thank you. Perkins? Yes? There are some spoilers coming up. Sorry, old boy. What do you mean, spoilers? When someone says something on a podcast that might give away something in a movie someone might be interested in if they haven't seen it already. Well, dash it all, that's rather rum and queer, isn't it? Oh, well, no, it's just so that people can avoid the next couple of minutes of the show, maybe forward it a little bit, skip past the spoilers, what, and go back to listening to it. Oh, I see. I think I'll have some more guava halves. I would, Perkins Eldfruit. You do love them so. I wish I had a pony. I've always wanted a pony. Perkins, we should really let people get back to the show, don't you think? Weirdo. Right down to the point where I'm like, I wonder if one of the closing sequences in the credits will be him going bad. Oh, yeah, there it is. Good, excellent. Didn't see that coming.
About Mark Strong. I was getting some definite Green Lantern vibes from that, which is not the vibe you want to give me. Actually, that's another thing. I'm sorry. We have to backtrack a bit. I really, talking about the Chris Prattening of generic action movie protagonists, I shouldn't really call it the Chris Prattening, because what it reminds me of more than anything is Ryan Reynolds in the Green Lantern movie.
Right.
That to me seems to be, well, that was the first time I really noticed it, because it was the first time it showed up and polluted and destroyed something that I actually care about.
Well, what was fascinating about Ryan Reynolds was that Hollywood attempted to make him like a big leading man. He'd done like weird little movies and comedy movies and odd little indie things. They attempted to we'll stick him in a Sandra Bullock movie. Oh, we'll stick him in a superhero movie. Oh, we'll stick him... they tried him in all the different things. And do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the very brief moment George Clooney had where they were like, let's try him in a big action thing. Let's try him in a superhero movie. Let's try him in a romantic comedy one fine day. And when that all failed, he went off and did his own interesting projects and then kind of has continued on the trajectory that he's done. Same a bit with Ben Affleck. And then again, although he's come back around again, and then same again with Ryan Reynolds, who then kind of went off and did his own little... He did a really interesting one called The Voices, which I thought was really cool. He showed up in very briefly in a movie called The Criminal, which wasn't bad. And and then he does Deadpool, which was in its own way a little kind of as indie as comic book movies get at the moment, even though it wasn't. And it'll be interesting to see sort of where he goes from here. But it's funny that they keep trying to crowbar people who I would consider fairly interesting actors into, sort of this homogenized, generic, white guy, scruffy hair type.
Yes, no, exactly right. And it is that's the problem. It is a type. And its ubiquity has made it recognizable to the point where it's like my kryptonite, really. I just can't anymore. I'm like, no, please no.
And although interestingly, what they do with English actors and Bendydick Slumbercrotch is entirely a case of this. Somewhere along the line, American Hollywood studios believe that English actors can play anything, so they put him in everything. I mean,
because they put y'all through actual acting schools still over there.
But Benedict has difficulty playing anything. He really does. I
liked him as a dragon.
He's not a very good actor. I'm sorry to say, he really isn't a very good actor. But surprise, surprise, considering he was the one I was most dreading. I didn't even know Rachel McBoring was in this.
Right.
Rachel McGeneric. But like, he was the thing I was worried about going into the movie. And actually, of the whole movie, I kind of liked him in this. Of all
Me
the
too.
things, I kind of liked
amazed.
him in this. I think he did a pretty good job. Mainly because he was playing a dick for 50% of the movie.
Bingo, right? You know, and that's easy enough, right? But and I will admit, it was a bit jarring hearing broadcast school dialect coming out his mouth. It took me about one act to get used to hearing him talk American. But
well, you see, what's
down.
Interesting is that you guys all have a history of knowing him with an English accent, mainly because of Sherlock and a handful of other films.
Yes.
Whereas someone like Hugh Laurie, for example, only people, the vast swathe of America only met him as House. So everyone accepted his American accent. His American accent is no better or worse than Benedict Cumberbatch's American accent. It's just you have a frame of reference. And so therefore, Cumberbatch's sounds a bit wobbly, whereas Hugh Laurie's doesn't. Whereas to my ears, they both sound as ludicrous. They both sound as... They both sound as put on. They sound like when I put on an American accent. They sound the same thing to me.
And I was waiting for your I was interested in your read on that and on what native ears might hear, because it is some people got the gift really, some got the training, and I'll admit my filters have been reset a bit because I watched British House of Cards.
Yeah,
and there's the token fat American Politico hanging around there in the first series of that.
Yeah.
And my God, his accent just takes a wandering tour of Jesus Christ, the entire contiguous United States over the course of like a sentence. You move from New York to Ohio to Alabama, and I'm like, oh my God, is this how I sound whenever I try to do British? Oh Jesus, I'm never doing an accent again.
Well, the funny thing is, David, is that for all the English arrogance and assumption where they say such ludicrous fucking things as, well, Americans never go outside their country. Most Americans don't even have a passport. The biggest joke about that is, of course, is that most English people have not been to America. And if they have been to America, they've been to New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco, which means they haven't been to America.
Yes, right. Yeah. No, just to the places where stuff happens. Yeah.
Right. So they know about as much about America as they know about probably the town next to theirs, because English people love to swan around and pretend like they know everything when really they're just as fucking clueless and idiotic as the rest of the world.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. I know where hobbits come from. Yeah. No, that was easy. I was like 6. I figured that part out.
Yeah, right.
But no, with but yeah. So yeah. Liked Cumberbatch. I liked Chiwetel. Just not just because he's Solomon Northrop, but because I like this Mordo more than any of his previous incarnations. Turning him into the Sinestro of the group was about the only thing they could have done for him, since he can't be the humanoid villain.
Right.
Since we got Mads for that. And what the fuck is up with Mads playing villains that have something fucked up with their eyes?
Right, exactly. and also,
I really
like,
want to know what's up with that. And yeah. But
what I
points for a villain that is not yet another evil Tony Stark. Because we've had too many of those.
Way too many of those.
We started to get them in one after another in a row there for a while, and I was really scared.
Well, I think the benefit of this is the same benefit that Guardians had, which is they embrace anything that would normally be a little quirky or maybe too off for a mass produced movie. They actually,
or what they think is too quirky for a mass.
I completely agree. The people who I am saying that
pansies,
right?
Lick spittlers and panderers, the creatures of the plutocracy.
No, these people have no memory of 80s movies where absolutely everything in those movies was fucking bizarre and weird and damaging.
I don't know. Kenneth Branagh did Thor. The first Thor movie is totally like Beastmaster 2.
Right. No, but what I mean is they embrace to the best of their ability the idea of magics, the idea of dimensions, the idea of all of that stuff.
Dimension theory. Oh my God!
Right,
I was amazed.
right down to where it's unsuccessful, I think, is the depiction of that, and we'll get onto that. The effects and all the rest of it, I think it was unsuccessful with. Where I think it was successful with, though, and again, it's fairly heavy-handed, but it's all right. And that was dividing up throughout the different characters, essentially all the different modes of belief. So all the different types of journey one takes into belief or faith or whatever you want to call it. Because they all have their own, Chiwetel Ejiofor and Mads Mikkelsen, they're both true believers, but they believe completely the opposite ends of what the book teaches kind of thing,
Yeah.
And
they're hardliners who break when confronted with hypocrisy. And I did like how Mads' first line, which is the first line in the movie and therefore sets the tone, is he calls the Ancient One a hypocrite. And the whole arc of the story is, when I step back from it, seems to be about, oh, yes, but hypocrisy is not necessarily the greatest crime in the world, which is a lesson that some people could stand to fucking learn.
Right. Well, it's not only that, but she realized her position or her story arc is the realization that she is using, like, all the powers, both dark and light. It is that she's realized that in order to successfully do anything, you kind of have to have a bit of everything, I guess, is the simplest way to boil that down into a sentence, although it's much deeper and layered than that.
Wait. I'm sorry, Perkins. That might have been a spoiler just back there. I didn't alert you to the fact like I should have done.
Oh, shut up. I don't really care. I've finished all my guava halves and I still don't have a pony. Fuck about spoilers. And the strength Doctor Strange has, the reason why it's important that he was selfish, is that while he does take the journey from the non-believer to the believer, he believes to the extent of where he can selfishly use it, yes, to benefit others, but through him. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, and that is where he actually... That is part of where he actually starts to break off from Tony Stark and become the character that I met in 1993 or so, when he was still kind of, he had his own series at that point. So, but I saw him in connection with Ghost Rider because, yes, that was the horse. That was the horse I hitched myself to, for better or worse.
I still like Ghost Rider too, dude.
And hey, I've seen things now, so I might soften to it.
Listen,
but
we're living talking about Ghost Rider. We're living in a year right now, 2016, where I found movies to be so boring and so uninspiring and so just generally crap that in my top 10 this year, which will be released soon on the aftermoviediner.com, in my top 10 actually sits quite happily and proudly a Nick Cage Netflix film. So that is where we're at, dude. Up is down, black is white. Cats and dogs living together. That's where
mass hysteria. Hey.
But no, so I found the stories of the individual characters in this fascinating. I liked their character arcs, and I liked what they were doing. I thought the characters were well written and strongly written.
Yes.
I found almost I found all the action and I found all the effects to be mostly awful. And no, I don't mean awful in the sense that they weren't well rendered technically. I just mean they were awful in the sense that they didn't amount to anything. None of the action sequences were action sequences born out of the storyline or the character. They were simply like, oh, it's 10 minutes gone by, let's fold another building into another building because we haven't done that for 10 minutes. And the other part that I found, like the most miraculous thing about the whole movie is that he was able to run into an ER in New York 3 separate occasions and get a hospital bed without any issue. That is the most miraculous fucking thing in this film. Not only that, she was on shift every single fucking time.
I'm gonna totally steal that joke when this hits video, and I have the whole thing to play with. But yeah. Movie, well, I should say any filmatic adaptation of Doctor Strange has run into this problem before, and just like the problem with his ground state, nobody's really figured out how to solve it. You do, unfortunately, with the type of magic that is used in the Marvel Universe, run into the problem of, well, okay, you have characters who can do pretty much anything, and yet they have so limited imaginations that everybody just winds up sword fighting half the time.
Right.
Now, there were a few points. I think that's why they went for the mirror dimension and the ability to alter its geography that allows, because there are a few points that overcome that, where I'm like, oh God, that's what you should do. Like the fight in the New York Sanctum.
Right, that was the best one. The fight with Scott Adkins was the best bit. With the I loved the cape defending him and then pulling him and all that. That was a lot of fun. I really did like that.
Finally, someone does self-aware articles of clothing correctly in a Marvel movie. It should have. Took forever, but yeah.
Although there was I have to say that there was a big disconnect between the CGI cloak and the real cloak, and it was at times when they jumped between the two glaring to the point where the CGI cloak was a completely different color on some occasions to the one that he physically wore. And when you and this is the trouble, when you watch it in bright, shining, entire size wall screened high definition, that shit sticks out like a sore fucking thumb. So you better figure it out. Where is the stitching? What is the color? Et cetera, et cetera. And there was bits where I was like, wait a minute. When he's wearing it physically, the stitching and the collar and all the rest of it is far more elaborate.
Completely, yes, almost like it was machine done. Yeah,
yeah. So it's that was a little glaring. It's also like all these movies, and I could say this about almost spit and hit a movie. It's about 25 minutes too long. It just is. Just take it. Roger Corman was right. Most films could do with losing a third of their running time, and he's absolutely right.
And that's that. I find that interesting, but not too terribly surprising, because as usual, I'm of the exact opposite opinion. But that's just because this, like so many origin pictures, concludes with the status quo that I'm really used to. So I just I'd very much like to see it continue, but also I'd like to see more fleshing out of pretty much everybody before they all start to die or turn evil. But yeah, I'm not shooting for the stars here. Let's not go crazy.
I think for an origin story, establishing him, establishing Mordo, establishing Wong, establishing is it Caecilius?
Yes, and funny. Somebody thought putting a villain with silly in his name would be a good idea. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and I'm all for that. And I mean, it's
but you got to understand, from my perspective, Doctor Strange has battled all kinds of evil sorcerers with much more impressive names. He has battled deities from every pantheon on Earth, including our own. He has battled Death herself, who has so far not made an appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm probably going to have to wait till Avengers 3 for that. But so, and they didn't want to do Mordo. They wanted to save Mordo for the sequel. But why, I still can't fathom why they would just just give him some C-list, no-name henchman from the early days as his first villain, except, of course, I can see the studio at work at this point. I know these people in my goddamn blood. I know how they think.
It's like anything. It's like Ant-Man in a way. The villain for Scott Lang is the protege of Hank Pym in the same way that the villain of Doctor Strange is the protege of Tilda Swinton.
True. All true. Yes, that is true. Well,
right? And she tried to. And it also fits in to the Iron Man and Justin Hammer because the dangerous parallels between Doctor Strange and Caecilius, meaning, it wouldn't take too much for Mr. Stephen Strange, Dr. Stephen Strange, to become Caecilius. And therefore, this movie has both things in the villain that Marvel seems to go back to time and time again, and that is, the antithetical clone of our hero, coupled
evil
with
version of you. Wow.
Yeah, coupled with the protege of your what's the word? Idol, or your
sensei
or whatever. Yeah,
master. Yes, and that would be that is true. That is all too true. That would be a good. He thankfully, Stephen, in this version of him at least, does not have the daddy issues that would require him to fight an evil version of his father like Tony had to.
Right.
So he can just cut straight to evil version of yourself. But of course, that's, I'm of a mind, that's what Mordo's for. But yeah, I know. But even that feels token and hollow and like an obligatory complaint in the face of the onrushing wave.
Well, it was just so funny that I was like literally about 40 minutes in, I was like, oh, so Chightwell Edge 4 is going to be bad, right?
Yeah.
I need to sit for the other hour and a half, or however long this damn movie was, because at points it felt painstaking. Again, not to say I didn't enjoy it.
They might as well have put up a sign, right? They tried, by God, they tried, but they were afraid that we would rebel against them. So they couldn't keep anybody waiting, and they couldn't do it outright because I don't know. So yes, as usual, they split the difference, did it half-assed, and nobody cares because it's a Marvel movie.
With Benedict Cumberbatch in the lead.
With Benedict Cumberbund, yes.
Yeah, Benedict Cumberbund. But no, for my money, although I loved Cumberbund in the movie, he was fine, and I enjoyed Tilda Swinton always. Benedict Wong walks off with the picture.
True.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy.
Perkins, I don't know why you're laughing, but I'm just happy to hear you so elated. I did just sneak in to tell you...
Listen, if the next words out of your mouth are that there are some gosh damn spoilers coming up, I don't want to know. I don't want to know, because look at this. Look at this shiny-maned pony somebody left for me. I've never been so happy. I'm going to feed it sugar lumps, and I'm going to put things in its mane like little baubles and baseball cards, and
I don't know, bits of cereal, all sorts of things. It's going to be marvellous. Okay, Perkins, I'll leave you to your pony. Just to let you know, though, there are spoilers coming up.
And I have to say that I'm so glad that time allowed for him to resurface and come back to life.
And in such an obvious, such a high-profile place, no less.
Right. Yeah, of course. And that was all a bit, clearly filmed on a soundstage in Los Angeles for my taste, but whatever.
The whole sanctum the main sanctum has gone a definite downgrade over the years. It used to be in the site she takes him to in the Himalayas, in fact.
Right.
But that's,
and they avoided the Batman Begins comparison of Eastern Tibetan temple type thing. They just about avoided the Matrix training montages.
Instead we get a travel montage.
Right.
We get
we get an acid trip. Doctor Strange goes on an acid trip. Using effects that they stole from a dude who does YouTube memes. That one where the arm comes out of the arm, comes out of the arm, comes out of the arm.
Yes.
There's a dude who does that on YouTube with a software.
You can do that. And After Effects. You can totally do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, you know what that really is? That is the moment in Hindu mythology when Shiva or Krishna rather reveals his divine form to Arjuna, and it's a great and terrible vision of the vastness of the universe.
But it's also
that part I loved just for its concept, and its execution too. I mean, it's a giant CGI light show like so many are. I mean, the ending of Ant-Man is basically the ending of Incredible Shrinking Man, but
right, it's the end of Iron Man, end of any of them, yeah.
Oh, that's Avengers 1, actually, the staring into the void. That's
the thing that's so odd to me is that there are multiple different ways to do special effects. And if there are multiple dimensions and they're meant to be creative and artistic and weird and special and different and stuff, why is it just big CGI globs? Like, it's just a big soup of colorful blurg. I mean, they could have done one. Imagine one realm in like plasticine animation, and one realm with like cutout animation, and another realm that was actually physically built with interesting angles.
Everybody listening to this now needs to open up another tab and Google Doctor Strange Steve Ditko. And they will see pages upon pages of results of the original artwork that was drawn for depicting all of these various and sundry dimensions in the Doctor Strange comic book, and they will see that while it bears some resemblance to what we got, the difference is obvious and immediate. Doctor Strange was one of the first books I can think of that captured an audience for its art. As over and above and ahead of its stories, which were a whole lot of supernatural mumbo jumbo.
Sure, I just think that there's
at least in those early days. But this thing premiered. Imagine this, right? This thing premiered in July 1963, and prefiguring psychedelic art by at least 5 years.
Sure.
So it became a breakout hit on the strength of that alone. And the imagination in some of those pages could have been much better represented by the effects team in this film. I will say that.
Yeah, I just felt that. I just felt there were other ways to do it. Even if you do it as CGI, it all looked the same to me. And what was funny is that a lot of people have said about the effects in this one, they've gone, oh, well, in order to fully appreciate it, you've got to see it in IMAX and you've got to see it in 3D and you've got
Bullshit.
to... And I know. And my entire point is, if you've got to see it in IMAX and you've got to see it in 3D, a good movie, it is not. Because...
And anyway, how much an IMAX ticket cost you? You're in New York, so I imagine
I didn't go and see this in IMAX or 3D. I saw this in normal 2D, high def, but 2D. And my feeling about it was, I'm glad I did, because I could barely follow it during the action sequences. I could barely follow it as it was. If I had to think about fucking 3D and IMAX and all the other bollocks going on, it would have been just too confusing. I have to say, and I don't know this director who did this
I do.
film, but I have to say he's, for such an imaginative property as Doctor Strange, they really picked someone who can't fucking do anything very interesting at all. I felt like the director, I thought they had a fairly decent cast, even though it is pick a card, any card, and put it in the slot in terms of casting. But I think that it worked out in a fairly decent way. I think that the script...
Because they're all professionals.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and that's exactly right. They're all professional actors, and whether you like them, dislike them, think they're good, think they're bad, they all turn up to work. And they're not dragging their heels. They all know they're all here. They're all taking it seriously, and they're all doing a decent job of it. So no complaints there. I think the script was fairly strong in terms of what it had to convey, how much it had to convey, and the character arcs that it had to go through. And I thought that worked very well. I think where this was massively let down was its running time and its effects and its director. I think those three things were glaring errors with this. And it's a shame because, just like Guardians, it had the ability to go to any dimension we wanted and show us worlds beyond worlds. And instead I got what looked like some fractals from 1988, a YouTube meme, and some globby bloop gloop that I could have just fucking done on anything. Like, it just looked awful.
But you also got the reverse climactic battle, which I must call out as an actual moment of real novelty, where I sat up and I was like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Maybe this Derrickson kid has some chops after all.
The reverse effects were very well done. I do have to agree with you on that one. The logic that it would take to figure all that out so that you film it forwards and then reverse it. I thought, yes, there was a lot that I liked in that. I'm talking more about the dreamscapes and then the fight sequences where everything's folding in on itself for no good reason.
Yes, because magic. I can finally say that and not feel guilty about it. Because magic.
Right.
But at the same time, I'll have to agree, because I really only appreciate those in the sense of what they are not, and of the belated innovation that they represent. Really, this is inspired by all of the hack assholes out there who immediately compared this to Inception.
Right.
Because if this had come out in like 2005 or 6 or 7, like it was supposed to, they would have all compared it to The Matrix.
Right.
And they would have had a much stronger case, because when you can manipulate all of reality to your whim, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Why would you just waste your time on boring old-fashioned kung fu fights? That's for the normies. You're a sorcerer, supposedly, right?
Right. I think
still everyone comes up with melee weapons or
right.
with creative rearrangements of terrain. So we're not quite to the point where we're not quite there yet, but maybe if we can keep the world from ending, we'll get to where anime was in, say, 1986.
Yeah. Hopefully, that's the plan. And I think that the thing that I loved about a film like, let's say, Dr. Parnassus, the Terry Gilliam film, is that all the fantasy realms that they go into in that film, you know, and there's some questionable CGI in there, but, like, they're all different. So you have, like, there's a Pythoness one, there's one that's clearly filmed on a soundstage with cutout flowers and da-da-da-da-da. There's one, like, there's all different ones, and he's being imaginative and varied and diverse and drawing inspiration from, you know, art from throughout the centuries. And I just think that there was a great opportunity missed with that. I
agree wholeheartedly. Yes.
And the second point that I had was that I liked far better when Doctor Strange was, like, learning or had to learn, like he was dumped into the deep end at one point, essentially the collapse of the New York realm or whatever.
Sanctum.
Sanctum.
Yes,
he was dumped into a situation where he had to improvise and where he had to learn as he went. And I thought that was that they were my favorite bits. And beyond that, and I also thought it was kind of clever, the loop that he was put in with the, like, Dark Lord or whatever. I thought that was clever.
He beat Dormammu, and from my perspective, this was especially awesome. Because this is the third Doctor Strange film that I know of that we have, honestly. The first one was a TV movie made in the 70s for CBS because they were doing The Incredible Hulk at the time, and they wanted to branch out. This is also how we got Reb Brown's Captain America movies. The second one was...
I'll hear nothing against Reb Brown.
No, you will not. Certainly not out of me. The second one was a 2007 straight-to-video animation.
You don't count Dr. Morbid then with Charles Band and your friend and I, Jeffrey Combs.
I should, because goddamn Jeffrey Combs. But no, the second one was a 2007 direct-to-video animation that prefigures this movie in quite a few plot points. Because, again, it was an origin story meant to introduce the character to an audience that had, you know, maybe have no idea who the hell he is and may, in fact, be actively hostile to the very idea of fantasy films.
Right.
And so it covered a lot of the same territory in actually, you might like it because it did it all in about 80 minutes.
Which is all any of these films need. Because... like, you don't need
It's much more Karate Kid than this Doctor Strange. I will. Right. I'll give you that warning up front.
I think that's like,
and much more Batman Begins as well. Though that may just be my bias speaking.
They're kind of afraid to be goofy with it almost. Any of these films.
They're afraid of startling the normies. It's like, no, actually, it's like Ghostbusters 2. Ray, you're scaring the straights.
Right. Okay, sir. So look, we have come to the end of 2 hours, which is fantastic.
Even though we tried not to. But
no.
Still.
This is still short for us, so this is good. Any points we didn't touch on, anything you want to wrap up, you have 3 minutes. Go.
Okay. Okay, and this may affect our friendship, but okay, bald Tilda from this movie, or short hair and pinstripe suit Tilda from Constantine.
Oh, Constantine, all the way.
Yes. Thank you.
The only good movie Shia LaBeouf's ever done.
That's correct. Oh, though I shouldn't say that. I haven't seen his recent pictures.
Piece of shit. You can even replace the word shit now in the dictionary with Shia. I believe they're interchangeable.
Oh, yes.
You pretentious hipster hack.
Oh, man. Let's see. What else? No, that was, I think that was
it. That was the gauntlet you threw down, and if I had gone, this one, like an idiot, you would have been like...
Well, I must say, as soon as they cast Tilda, I knew I was going to be on this movie's side. But I gotta say, prefer bald Tilda looks a bit too much like Avatar Aang. Right. To bring it back to the last Airbender. In fact, paint an arrow on her head, and she'd be Avatar Yang Chen, his previous incarnation.
And in fact, that was their biggest problem, was that if anyone can be the master, and if she's Celtic, don't give her the shaved head. Don't give her don't give her the old Asian man look. Give her a different look. Have her wear a fucking suit and tie or whatever. Like, have her in a kind of lesbian chic from the 1920s. Do it. But anyway,
we saw Mary Martin's Peter Pan too often when we were children, didn't we?
Probably.
Or is that just me?
I think that's just you, sir. I just like.
No, my music teacher stopped caring around 5th grade there, and so yeah.
I just like women in suits. But no, of course I'm going to go with Constantine. It's got my man Peter. It's got my man Peter Stormare in. Of course I'm going to go for fire.
Right. Peter. Oh, yes. Yeah. There's a Satan. And also, I do like how in the end, I bring up 2007 Doctor Strange in order to illustrate the ultimate point that I do like how, spoiler alert, our hero beats ultimate evil with Groundhog Day.
Right. Yeah. No. That was
rather than every other time, all the 2 other Doctor Strange movies, he's won with a gigantic explosion, basically.
Right.
And to see him actually, employ some creative thought to his incredible amounts of power was heartening.
And I loved the old hackneyed thing of. The spell that no one does. We cannot do this spell. And I'm like, I think he's probably going to end up solving the problem with that spell. I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Because, of course, if you can selectively manipulate the flow of time,
right?
Why wouldn't you?
Yes, exactly.
Avert some horrible catastrophes, like, say, Ultimate Evil opening up a wormhole to its dimension over the middle of Hong Kong.
Although, of course, there is a theory, and in fact, a Zen proverb that says, well, we shall see. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Maybe we don't subvert things or stop catastrophes from happening, because maybe it's not a good thing. We will see.
This is the tension of the superhero narrative, and we see already immediately, because they can't let us wait, and because they have to have a post-credit scene, that yes, actions do have consequences, and that one rock thrown into the pond will have a ripple effect across God knows how many dimensions, and maybe Avengers 4 might not suck.
Yeah, maybe. But considering Civil War Part 2 will probably suck harder than the first one, and then we've got Avengers 3, and then we've got a bunch of other stuff to get through, I might have fallen asleep by then.
We're going, yes, we've got Thor 2 next, goddammit.
Thor 3.
That's, right, yeah, damn, sorry, shit. Yes, we got Thor 3.
Remember, I liked Thor 2. I
liked parts of it too, damn it.
I'm the one.
You and me, baby. Now that Viking funeral, that got me.
But I also like Captain America 1 more than Captain America 2. Sorry, guys, but that's
apostate. Be gone, down, Satan.
Call me old-fashioned, but I like Captain America in World War II. That's my Captain America.
Me too. I would have liked to see more of it rather than it become a prequel to Avengers 1. But
yes, but there we go. But anyway, sir, it has been a thrill. It has been like no time has passed. We immediately jumped straight back into our old patterns, and it is glorious and fun and awesome. It's podcasting like no other, sir, when you and I get together to discuss seemingly inconsequential comic book movies. We manage to bring up a whole raft of references and theologies and all sorts of stuff. So it's fascinating. And thank you, as always, for taking this journey with me, sir.
Well, thank you for having me on, as always, John. It's been a pleasure.
And seeing as I've jumped back into the old ways of doing the After Movie Diner occasionally and doing a Skype episode, this will not be the last, sir. And we will go down this path yet again, even if my teeth are gritted and my fingernails are being dragged along the floor.
Yes, we'll see how much you like me when we get to Batman Superman.
No. I may never do that. But
I will. God damn it!
Although it's getting dangerous because I said I would never ever watch the Evil Dead remake, and if the TV series goes the way it might do, the remake might suddenly become canon.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Please God, no.
I'm very, very worried by two things. And this isn't really spoiling anything, even if you haven't seen any of it. At the end of episode 10 of season 2, we see the Book of the Dead in a woodland clearing by where the cabin used to be, and it is picked up by a woman's hand who says, "Oh, look what I found." And that could quite easily tie into the remake. So season 3 might be a mashup, and Bruce was recently asked, like, will we ever see the crossover? Why people want to see a crossover, I've no idea. The remake was a piece of shit.
It's canon now, and it will never go away.
Because people are like, I kind of like the remake. Why don't you like the remake? Because it's a remake of a movie that didn't need to be remade.
Because the original movie was perfect in every tiny detail. Anyway, and then Bruce was asked, like, will we ever see a mashup? And he was like, entirely possible. So I'm a bit worried about that, David. I might have to go back and actually watch the fucking remake.
I won't break my boycott until you do. So
okay, that's a lifelong blood pact. So
damn straight. No one
right.
crosses the line. Solidarity forever.
Yes, indeed, sir. Well, look, hope all is well with you, and apart from all the other stuff that's going on in the world, and let us talk again soon, David. All the best. Even though I'm a massive atheist, I still say Merry Christmas, because fuck this happy holidays. It's Merry fucking Christmas. And a Happy New Year to you and yours, sir.
And the same to you, sir. Thank you very much.
All the best. Come to the end of 2016 and the world seems to be falling apart. There is hate and bigotry, ignorance and insanity, and more unmitigated shit floating up the pop charts. There is death and war and Russian hacking, and the climate is well and truly wrecked. We're all staring at the void in disbelief now that Donald Trump is the president-elect. But don't worry, because in a few days it will be Christmas. Then you'll be sat around the table, hopefully stuffing your face with food. And that nagging itch of desperation and depression you feel. Just put it to the back of your mind and let joy and laughter and love be the only things that are real. Oh yeah, let joy, love and laughter be the only things that are real. Okay, so maybe your significant other has gone and left you. Oh, and maybe that person took all your favorite stuff. And everyone around you that you meet is sick with the flu. So sick. And maybe you have really just had enough. Liars, scumbags, and thieves are soon to be in office. I hate them. They trigger happy fingers, poised above a nuke. They're gonna blow us all up. Simon Cowell and Gordon Ramsay fucking are still on TV. Oh, bloody hell, it's enough to make you puke. Oh, but don't worry, because in a few days it will be Christmas. And you'll be sat around desperation and depression you feel. Oh, just put it to the back of your mind and let joy, laughter, and love be the only things that are real. Oh, yeah, let joy, laughter, and love be the only things that are real. Well, it's not wrong to sometimes ignore all the madness between fake and real news. You'll go quite insane. Your outrage levels will be shooting through the roof. You're not unlike John Cusack when he is standing in the rain. But sometimes you should step back and just be silly and realize no one nowhere really knows what's going on. And the world will travel round the sun one more time next year, unless Trump starts World War III, and in which case we'll all be gone. So don't worry, because in a few days it will be Christmas, and you'll be sat around the table, hopefully stuffing your face with food, and the actual desperation and depression you feel. Oh well, just put it to the back of your mind and let joy, laughter, and love be the only things that's real. Oh yeah, let joy, laughter, and love be the only things that are real. I'm saying let joy, laughter, and love be the only thing that are real. Well, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.